Welcome. You're listening to Leaders Lounge live and unmuted with Steve Hamilton. Today, so many leaders are feeling stuck, isolated, and uninspired. This podcast will help you master your framework, connect with the community of leaders, and reignite the devotion for what you do. Some of the brightest leaders of today will be joining the conversation, sharing the joys of leadership, their vision of the future, uncovering blind spots and pitfalls, as well as what they do to maintain their footing. If you're looking for candid conversation, this is the podcast for you. Help us by staying connected and subscribe to YouTube as well as SteveHamiltonMinistries.com. Now let's get started.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Leaders Lounge. Welcome to this week's session. We're glad to have you, and thank you guys for tuning in the last couple of weeks to my interview with Pastor Tammy Haddon. If you haven't checked that out, you need to go to SteveHamiltonMinistries.com, go to our YouTube page and check that out. It will bless you, I guarantee it. And if you already watched it, watch it again because there's a lot of really good things in there. She was an excellent guest. But we're back live with our weekly session, our TNT session. We're glad to be back with you. I want to talk tonight about an interesting subject. You'll see the subject, of course, is under the influence. And it came out of a discussion and a lesson that we had a few weeks ago, or a message I was preaching a few weeks ago. But in the scriptural context of it, there was a passage that stuck with me. And I said, let me go ahead and deal with it in the Leaders Lounge because so many of us now, either we're trying to be influencers or we are following certain influencers and we are being, hit with so much. There's so much information going out. And I wanted to talk to us as leaders about just being careful about who has our ear, who has influence on us, who's impacting us. Because many times the wrong influence can steer you off the track, off the path that you're supposed to be on. I was going to actually entitle this, Are You Under the Influence? Are you under the influence? Are you being influenced by something that is going to affect you negatively in the long run? Thank God for all of you that are coming in. As you're coming in, like, share, and tag fellow leaders. Make sure you subscribe to Steve Hamilton Ministries and make sure that you are always alerted when we are going live. But under the influence, of course, we all know what that means when you're talking about driving or operating a vehicle or something like that. You get arrested for being under the influence. In other words, you have let a substance or something begin to affect you and impair your ability to drive, the ability to communicate, all those types of things. But many of us, as I said earlier, we're trying to be influencers. So that's the thought too, in terms of what are we trying to influence people? What way are we trying to influence them? But people have an impact on us. As leaders, all of us are influenced, are getting impressions from somebody. Somebody is affecting our lives, affecting how we think, and affecting how we operate. And many of us are, we are influenced by so many people, even in our ministry and what we're doing. We watch people all the time. We listen to them, and we are affected by it. We are influenced by them. And but you have to be careful, because the wrong influence can have devastating effects on how you operate and what happens in your future, how you move forward. And I'm using a scriptural example, and I want to just go to the scripture in Mark's Gospel, chapter number 8, I believe. Yeah, Mark 8. And I want you to understand where they were. They were, Jesus had just fed a multitude, 4,000 people, and they had taken up, extra, 7, I believe, baskets or something of that nature. But he got into the ship, and they began to, they were getting into a ship. He's getting ready to leave, and the Pharisees, the religious order of the day, those leaders, had began to come and to question him. And they wanted a sign from heaven. They want you to give us a sign about who you are. They're trying to tempt him and get him to Jesus to say who he is, or get, basically trying to get him in trouble, trying to trap him. And he basically responded, why? He basically saying, why are y'all always looking for a sign? Why are you always? Sounds like a lot of people in our generation now, looking for a sign, looking for something deep, looking for something mysterious, looking for something mystical. We need to know us and get a sign. He said, nobody is getting a sign from this generation. And what was interesting was how they describe it as he sighing deeply. Jesus was like frustrated with them, always wanting this, and they were they weren't believers anyway. A lot of times people want to see a whole lot of stuff, but they're not going to change. They're not going to believe him. And so they came out and began to argue, contention, and debating with him. The Amplified says, demanding from him a sign from heaven to test him because of their unbelief. He groaned and sighed deeply in his spirit, and he said, why does this generation want a sign? Well, I assure you, you're not getting a sign. There's not going to be a sign for this particular generation. That's not what I wanted to get to. But as he left them and went into the ship and departing, going to the other side. Now, understand, the disciples had forgotten to bring bread for the trip. All right. They had run out of bread and they forgot to bring it. But they're in a ship going across the Sea of Galilee. And as they only had one loaf, right? And so, and they were used to making sure that there's enough food, at least a little provision, something that they could eat. And the King James Version of verse 15 says, and he charged them, saying, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the leaven of Herod. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. The Amplified says it like this: Jesus repeatedly ordered them, saying, watch out, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the leaven of Herod. He said, be careful, watch out, be alert for the leaven of the Pharisees and of the leaven of Herod. Now, real quickly, it's not Bible study, but I want to just drop this in your spirit. And leaven really is like yeast, all right? Of course, which you use to make bread. But it said that the substance such as yeast that consists mostly of fungi. So it's a fungus. And this analogy, and what he's saying about the leaven is really relating about the impurity of a leavening agent. And so he's like, make sure to be the impurity of a man-made tradition. And so he's comparing leaven of the Pharisees and of Herod to this man-made tradition or teaching, and leaven has an influence. Yeast has an influence on the bread. It makes it rise. Leaven throughout Scripture was really symbolic of sin. But it was, of course, we need leaven in our bread, make it, rise, make it, what it's supposed to be. But he said, beware of the impurity of man-made tradition and hypocrisy of the Pharisees that was preventing them from preventing the nation of Israel from accepting him as Messiah. That's what he was warning them about. He said, be careful. But I want you to note that he said, be careful of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Herodians. The Pharisees represented the religious order, or what we would call the church culture. All right. Beware of the leaven of the church culture. And then the Herodians was the political. So now you have to be careful about the influence of the church culture, traditional church culture, and even now with our quote unquote church culture that we have, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a believer's culture. It means that it's just tradition. It's what we do. It doesn't. A lot of times, there's the church. One of the things I talked to Pastor Tammy about was the fact that sometimes you can be. A lot of people can be religious, but they're not spiritual. You can be religious and not really understand what it means to be a true believer in Jesus Christ. And so you have to be careful about allowing all these quote unquote influences to have an impact on your life. So Jesus is warning the disciples. He says, be careful about the leaven or the spirit or the influence of the Pharisees and of the influence of the Herodians. You say, well, what does this have to do with us today, Pastor? Because there are a lot of influencers. We have way more influencers now, and many more ways we can be influenced than they did back then. There are every time you turn your phone on, every time you go online, every time you open up your phone to watch an app, to see what's going on Facebook, Twitter, all these other places, TikTok. They're bombarded with influencers. TikTok is bombarded with influencers trying to tell you how to make money, how to become that influencer. That I'm a media influencer, and all of a sudden, and you got to be careful. What are they influencing me with? How is this seeping into my life? How is it starting to erode my thinking? And now you got AI influencers. You got people that aren't even real. You got things that aren't even real. They appear to be a certain way, but now they're influencing me to think. They're changing my mood. They're changing even how we preach and teach. They're changing how I operate because I've been influenced the wrong way. And so I'm just dropping this on you. Are you under the influence of a influencer that is affecting you the wrong way? Are we listening to the wrong voices? Who has our ear? Who are we paying attention to? Who are we allowing into our space? There are times where you have to be careful about even the people that are in your circle. Sometimes as you mature, as you become aware, you have to look at and say, this person is influencing me or affecting me the wrong way. I hope I'm helping somebody. As a leader, I got to be careful of who I surround myself with, who I let talk to me, who I let into my space, who I allow into my head, who I listen to, because some of the people that you listen to, the enemy will use them to throw you off track. Sometimes you got to be careful about people that are quote unquote close to you, that you've allowed now. Okay, now that they're having more of an impact on me than I am having an impact on them. They're thinking and their way of operating is seeping into my operation. Now I'm thinking differently. Now I'm looking at things the wrong way. Now I'm starting to veer off track. And many of us have been distracted by the wrong influence. One of the things that's interesting about TikTok in particular is you can find yourself on there for hours if you're not careful. Many of us you have to set a timer. Okay, you've been on here for a certain amount of minutes. It'll alert you. You've been watching this. You've been scrolling. through videos. And I'm not anti any, TikTok or anything else. But what I'm saying is be careful. What Jesus was saying, and he was, and what's interesting is how the scripture describes it as he kept on telling them, he kept commanding them, he kept on ordering them, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and beware of the leaven of Herod, the Herodians. He said, be careful about allowing too much of the political stuff to get into your spirit. Be careful about following everybody and watching them and listening to them, because some folks the enemy is going to use them to follow you or lead you down the wrong path. We got to be careful as leaders that we are not jumping at everything that's moving. Oh, that's what they're doing over here. I got to do that. And everything that looks good or looks spiritual is not. Everything that looks churchy is not necessarily good for you. There are some things that, when we were growing up, of course, they were telling us you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, all the different things you couldn't do. But I'm not trying to say that's the issue. Sometimes you got to be careful, though, about how much of that has gotten into your spirit. Many of us, and I'm sure maybe all of you, I'm sure, have watched a movie or listened to some music, or in an environment where I start feeling a different way. I start thinking it's impacting me, and I just want to drop this word on you. Are you under the influence of something that is not healthy for you? Something that is not good for you or good for the people that you lead? We have to be careful, because sometimes what we'll do is we'll hear something and we'll just repeat it. Sometimes we'll hear something, we'll internalize it, and before we know it, sometimes almost subconsciously, it starts to seep into how we operate, how we think, how we feel. All of us have been around people that began to have an influence on us, and we didn't realize that the influence was not good, and sometimes until it was too late. I want you to just think for a moment. Am I under the influence of the right people? Are the right people in my spirit? Sometimes people at one point in your life were really good for you. Sometimes people will help you get through a particular period and help you even in leadership. I've had people that had a significant impact on me at certain times of my ministry, at certain times of my growth as a leader. But then there came a time where maybe their influence needs to be a bit less. Maybe I don't need that influence at this time of my life or this stage of my ministry. And so it may change, it evolves, but make sure that you understand that I can't allow everything and everybody to have me under their influence. I can't and Jesus warns them. He says, listen, be careful. And of course, the disciples didn't get it. They didn't receive the message. They said, well, he's mad because we forgot to bring bread. Jesus said, when there were 5,000 men that needed to be fed, how many loaves did you take up? Baskets did you take up? They said 12. He said, when I just did 4,000, how many baskets did you take up? They said 7. So he's saying you still don't understand. It's not about bread. It's not about, he said, it's about allowing the wrong people to have an influence on your life, to have an influence on your thinking. Some of us have to be careful that we're not under the influence, that we're letting the wrong people have our ear and have our attention. Be careful. Leaders, check who has your ear. And every now and then, and sometimes various times throughout the year, you got to kind of check, well, who am I listening to? Who am I paying attention to? Who am I listening to? How are they affecting me? And there's some people that you need to make sure that they don't have you under the influence of something wrong. Uh, Write that in the comments real quick. I'm not under the influence. I'm not under the influence. I will not let myself be under the influence. Make sure that the people that you're listening to, that you're watching, that you're following, make sure they're going somewhere. Scripture in another place, Jesus said, if the blind lead the blind, they all fall in the ditch. If blind folks are leading blind folks, they all fall in the ditch. And the thing that's important for us to understand is I can't follow everybody. I can't give my ear to everybody. I can't watch everybody. Some people I need to leave them over there. Jesus is saying, be careful of the religious folks that have your ear, and be careful of the politics, the political folks that are having an influence or having an impact on your life. Make sure you stay focused. I had said a few weeks ago that one of the key things as we move throughout the rest of this year and into 2026 is our ability to focus. Leaders, one of the key things is going to be how well do you remain focused? There's going to be a lot of distractions. There always are. But make sure that you're not inviting the wrong influence into your life. So an officer will pull you over and say, have you had anything to drink tonight? And then they want to get you want to check to see, are you driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs or what have you? Are you driving under the influence? And are you, as a leader, are you leading under the influence of the wrong people? All right. God bless you and God keep you. Pray about it and make sure that you are careful. Jesus, it's interesting that Jesus was really ordering them. Make sure that you are careful about the Pharisees and the Herodians. Be careful about those that have an influence over you. All right. God bless you. I want you all to join me. I hope this blessed you. I hope it made you think a little bit. But I hope you join us on Saturday. We are having our monthly Spirit and Life Ministries International, our leadership session, the Leaders Lab, this Saturday at 10 a.m. I can't wait to talk to you about finding the balance. How do you find the balance? There are two areas I want to focus on. You finding the balance, finding a work and relaxation, a work play balance, work and rest balance, but then also as you're leading in whatever capacity you're leading in, finding a balance between moving too fast, moving too slow. Moving too fast and y'all lose my core group, move too slow and I don't get the new people that are coming that the Lord wants to send my way. So let's find a balance between finding the right pace to move at. So join me this Saturday, 10 a.m. It's on Zoom. You see the Zoom information right there. Join us for our Leaders Lab. We have wonderful discussion. We have conversation. And I think it is something that you ought to check out. If you haven't been a part of the Leaders Lab, this is the best time to join us. This Saturday at 10 a.m. on Zoom. The Zoom information is on your screen. Join us then, and I guarantee you'll be blessed in the name of the Lord. Also, if you'd like to look at our past videos, join us at stevehamiltonministries.com. Go to our YouTube page. Again, check out the interview with Pastor Tammy Haddon. There's a lot of great information there, but there's a whole lot of videos that we've done over the years, a lot of content. It will bless you. I guarantee it. If you thought about, I had a friend of mine that was looking at one of our videos or one of the introductory videos I was doing a few weeks ago, And they were like, well, when is that going to happen? It already happened, but you can go check out the video, and hopefully it'll be something there that'll bless you. God bless you. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. And the Lord willing, we'll see you next week in the Leaders Lounge. Good night, everybody.